This doctor walked out, and I began to weep. I called my sponsor, and she in turn called someone that she knew that was HIV positive and that had been living a successful, healthy life. And then that young lady called me, and she drove from Columbia to Sumter in like 30 minutes. She was there. um, and she cried with me, and she showed me pictures of the work she was doing and how she was an activist and how it was important that people like me are needed to help fight the good fight. And it was 2 weeks later, I believe, I joined Positive Voices. I hadn't even been diagnosed 30 days yet, and I was already an activist. Because it was no longer my neighbor's problem. It was no longer the lady down the street's problem. It was my problem. It had hit home. And not saying to myself, well, that will never happen to me. Well, yes, it did. It happened to me.
South Carolina is not like any other state in the country. The issues that drive us on health care is not that we don't have good quality health care, it's that we have unemployment and poverty. We need to handle South Carolina in the way that we know that's best, not in the way the president knows that's best. Right now I have 10.7% unemployment. I need to increase jobs. I don't need to be increasing Medicaid.
Father, we know that whatever needs that we have, whatever desires that we have, somebody's in there this morning seeking you right now. Oh, yeah.
Amen. As we say, we want to take this opportunity to allow our visitors to come forth who have testimonies that will help us have a better understanding and help us to be more mindful of this thing called AIDS, amen. HIV, AIDS, amen. Let's give the Lord some praise, amen. For those who have taken on the mantle of ministering in this way.
In South Carolina, we rank number 6th in the nation, 8th in the nation in the rate of AIDS. 80% of all women in South Carolina living with HIV/AIDS is black. 80% of all children living with HIV are black. 73% of all men living with HIV are black. So this is a black epidemic for all practical purposes. Amen. In the whole state of South Carolina, this little community here is impacted at number 1 in the state in the rate of AIDS. Amen. And as you go into the polls to vote, you got to realize that this state right now is investing very little in the saving the lives of African Americans impacted by HIV/AIDS. And so if you're waiting on the Calvary to come, if you're waiting on somebody else to come and save us, if you think the government coming, if you think help's coming, just think about Katrina. They ain't coming. So we gonna have to save ourselves. And so I hope that I have your commitment to help do something, because just from us coming here with this small brief conversation, now you know better. And when you know better, when you know better, when you know better, and I expect y'all to do better.
This is the only church I went to that they talked about it like that. And I think I'm going to go back there. It was amazing to me. I've been here all my life. I talked about it in Summer Grove, my church, maybe twice. The preacher didn't ask me how anybody was doing. He know my 2 daughters had HIV. He never cared to ask about it. People just don't talk about it. They just block it out.
Hi, Ashley. Thank you for joining us today, and you're on with Governor Haley.
How are you, Governor Haley?
Hi, Ashley.
I was wondering what would be your plan like for people who can't afford health care?
Well,
instead of Obamacare, you mean?
Instead of Obamacare.
Good stuff, Ashley. Good stuff.
First of all, Ashley, that is a great question. You know, the one thing about Obamacare is, although I am against it, The good thing that came out of it is we do need to have a discussion about health care in this country, and we do want everybody to have health care. We need more choices and options. So for you and your mom and dad, I want to make sure that we have insurance companies that cross state lines so that they have plenty of options like they do with car insurance. We want to see how do we get the most health with the least amount of money.
If I had to talk about HIV and it was in somebody else's family, I don't think I would have been as compassionate as I am about it with it in my family. So I can understand people that's not compassionate about it. I would have been worried about catching it.
Even in my child, like Tony, when I had sex and got it.
My little granddaughter, they she was coming, and she's HIV positive. She couldn't help herself. That's how she was born.